It's me, James, and I'm here about to conduct the Kipper-Cast for the month of April 2025. It is Sunday evening on March the 30th, 2025, and I thought with my schedule being what it is this coming week, I wanted to get this video in before the months change. So here we are. So I'm going to be working with my personal Kipper deck as I have for previous Kipper-Cast episodes, and that deck is the Kipper of Himm. I made this in 2023, and when I made it, I decided I wanted to color code the borders because there are 5 different types or categories of cards within the Kipper deck system, and I had that design idea in mind to make it easier for me to work with the cards. And when I showcased this particular deck during my Kipper Cards by Category series, I was then asked by my fellow Kipper peeps out there to continue the series showing example readings on how the cards would interact with one another based on category. And so I came up with this idea for the Kipper Cast as a monthly way to stay engaged with the cards on my part. So if you are here for the first time, welcome, and I thank you for taking time to explore content on my channel. If you are a returning viewer and visitor, especially if you are one of my Kipper peeps, thank you so much for continuing to check out content on my channel. I do so greatly appreciate the support of my work. And so what we do here is we ask the cards to present the story that could possibly unfold for the month. So I'm going to be shuffling that intention into the cards, focusing on what's possible for the month of April 2025. And for these monthlies, if you are no stranger to my video content, then you'll know that I also have a series called the Oracle Outlook, which are weekly readings, and in those I use lines of 5. For the monthlies, I do a box of 9. In my personal practice, I work with 3 cards a day, 5 cards a week, and then 9 cards for the month. So I thought, why not do the same thing here? So I'm going to shuffle one more time. Okay. Now I'm going to cut the deck. Now I'm going to spread the cards out in a fan, like so. And then I am looking for 9 cards in the fan that are getting my attention. So down here are the 9 cards. I'm going to take the remainder of the deck up because based on directional cues or the type of cards based on category, I may feel led, called, or guided to draw cards from the remainder of the pack. Okay, so I'm going to count back. 9, 8, 7, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. So now the way I lay out my cards when I do a 9-card box, because every reader is different, I keep it real simple. So I go just in order. So the first 3 cards that were selected are going to form the very top of the box. Cards 4, 5, and 6 are going to form the second row, with card 5 being the focus card. And then the final 3 are going to make up the bottom row. So I'm looking in my viewfinder. I'm going to take a moment to pull these cards down for better view. All right. I think that will work. All right, so like I said, card 5 is the focus card. So this is going to be the focus for the month ahead. in terms of what could possibly unfold or what the story Kipper is that wants to share. Okay, so looking at the card, we have a card that shows up quite a bit. So here we have the house card. So the red border is a stop card. Red bordered cards for in my deck are stop cards. So here we have at the center, we have the house card. So this is a card that talks about home, family. So this could be a domestic situation, right? Focusing on the home, focusing on family, focusing on one's private life, one's home life, everyday living. Or it could be talking about situations where you are dealing with people who live under the same roof as you, right? So it may not be family. It could be a situation where you're living with roommates or extended family. But this would just represent home, family, things like that. Now, it could also be real estate and property. So it could be like things with your actual physical home. So if it's not family, then it would be the home itself. So this could be real estate, property, things of that nature. So again, home and family would be the focus for this month ahead. So that's the focus card. So now the other cards surrounding it are going to give us a little more nuance or a few more details, that kind of thing. So I always go to from the focus card, card 5, to card 1. Card 1 is what I call the trigger card. So since there is no specific stated question, this might give us some idea of what the reading would be about. And here we have great fortune. So great fortune, another stop card, by the way, because it's a red border, is actually the best card in the deck. So this card is about blessings. It's about abundance. It's about fortune. It's about luck. And you can tell by the image, I went with the image of a man who is being surrounded by falling coins, right? So if I go with the image, then this could also be about, changes taking place, right? Because all the coins represent change. So this could be change in the collective, right? But it could also be, a desire or a wanting for things to change for the better. Now, there would be another card that would indicate improvement, so we'll have to see if that card turns up. But right now here we're looking at blessings, abundance. This could be financial windfalls. There's another card that talks about financial windfalls as well. So those cards would just emphasize the messages that are coming through for me in the moment with this card. But again, this is great fortune. Okay, so then what I do is after I look at these two cards, then I look at the closing card. So to see how things could potentially end up. And now here we have a cause and effect card. Okay, and so here, if I remember after going through all the other cards, I may draw another card. So here we have false person. So now false person is a cause and effect card. Yellow border. That's how I have identified cause and effect cards in the system for me. And this card would indicate something being wrong, something being off, some kind of mistake. But it can also represent things that are hidden or concealed. That would be the mask, right? But it would indicate something is off. Now, the title, false person, would make you think it is about a person, but this is not necessarily a person card. It usually can represent, again, something being hidden or concealed, something being false, which means like insincerity, duplicity, dishonesty. Dishonesty is another name for the card in other decks, other Kipper decks. It's called dishonesty. And so the cause and effect here would be, so this card here, card 8, is the effect, because the woman holding the mask, the part of, I'll hold it up maybe so you can see it better. So the part of her face that's exposed, that's not being covered by the mask, is the cause. So a card next to that would be the cause, but the card that is has the mask next to it is the part, this is the effect. So this would be the cause of the dishonesty, the mistake, something being bad, off, that kind of thing. And then this would be the effect of that, right? Because the cause is what's being concealed, right? Now, if this was a person, this would be somebody who's putting on a false front, right? The mask, right? So in another case like this, if we go with the idea possibly that the house card has to do with home and family, then it could be something in the family is off, something is not quite right, or that somebody is being insincere with the family, or something is being concealed that is a domestic or family matter, right? But this ends on a very challenging note because it's a cause and effect card, and one of the more challenging cause and effect cards at that. So that is false person. So now let's take a look at all the other cards. We're going to turn them all over and see what's remaining. Okay. Here we have another cause and effect card, the theft card. A long road. Hope big water. Okay. So now, let me come back here since I just talked about false person. So now, the sorrow card, again, a number of the cards here for the month ahead are stop cards. And that's basically because the majority of the cards in the Kipper deck system are known as stop cards. So a number of them being in a reading would indicate, things not progressing as quickly as one would like or as people would like, depending on the context, of course. And we do have one movement card, the long road, or a long road, is a green bordered card, and for me that's a movement card. But again, the majority are stop cards. So now, back to this. So sorrow is the effect. Now, sorrow is also known as grief and adversity in Kipper cartomancy. So here the effect of whatever the dishonesty is, whatever is being hidden or concealed. The effect of it is going to be grief. It's going to be adversity. It's going to be stress. This is a card that talks about stress. Now, for me, going with the image is deliberate on my part because I wanted an image that reflects headaches. I, as a person, experience headaches or migraines, and so you can clearly see by the image, this is of a person who it could be interpreted that he's banging his head against the wall, right? And so for me, that metaphorical expression could mean like, the actions that one is taking to rectify a situation isn't changing it, right? But this card would suggest it's going to be causing the effect anyway here with false person is going to be stress, a great deal of stress, grief, and anxiety and adversity. Yeah. So those are the meanings of sorrow, but we'll maybe come back to that when we take a look at this other card in this row, hope big water. Okay. So let's come up to the top of the 9 card box, and here in the middle we've had this card show up, and I believe it showed up last month. As a matter of fact, as I'm looking at this, I believe theft also showed up last month. So here we have young gentleman, and so young gentleman is a card for me that can represent a younger person. Above the house card, this could be a younger member of the family. So this could be a younger brother, a son. If it's the nuclear family, right, the house might imply nuclear family. But if it's extended, then it could be a cousin, nephew. Because the young gentleman card for me would indicate a younger male. And so I always say this when I'm working with Kipper. So this would be a younger person than you and I, myself making the video, you as a viewer watching the video. Because in the Kipper deck system, the reader or the person who's having the reading done, depending on who the reading is for, would be considered either main person 1, which would be a male consultant or seeker, and then male person 2 would be a female consultant or seeker, right? So any other person card would be in relation to that card. So this would be a younger male figure, like I said. Now for me, this carries a dual meaning, this card. Because he's wearing a suit, this can also represent business or finance, yeah? And if we put the card down, if you're familiar with a process called knighting, knighting is where you either count up 1 and over 2 on opposite sides of the spread, or you go up 2 and over 1 on opposite sides of the spread. It could also work if you go down. So if I were to go over 1 and down 2, young gentleman knights the false person, right? So this might indicate this is the person that is not sincere, that is doing the concealing, not being above board, yeah? So there is that. And we could go the other way too. If we take false person and go up 2 and over 1, it still would be the same result. Now, interestingly enough, I'm just jumping just because here we have false person knighting over 2 up 1 to theft. And then theft, I remember last month or in the Kipper-Cast for March that when theft turned up, I believed it was over here, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, I said something to the effect, I used the word embezzlement, right? Here, we might have an issue, especially with great fortune, right? A lot of money, perhaps, or a lot of change, right? There may be something having to do with fraud, because I said embezzlement last time, and now I'm feeling the sense with false person, there may be something about fraud. So we'll have to see how that would unfold. But here, with the only person card, the purple border card, here we have a businessman of some kind who may be involved, right? Now, it may be a businessman, and whatever he's doing is going to have an effect on his family or his home life, right? So there's that. Now, let's come over to short illness. Short illness is a connector card. So short illness is a card that can talk about one's health, one's well-being. It usually can represent, just like the name on the card, short illnesses. So this would be minor health issues. So you can think of like colds. I'm thinking with the seasons changing, right? This might be people who are affected by allergies. I'm always affected by the pollen count, right? Now, I'm also looking, just because I said something about headaches and migraines, that the person on the card is getting his temperature checked, right? But the hand on the head could also represent taking some action regarding head pain, right? So again, that would be headache, migraine, something of that nature. Now, other meanings of this card could mean taking a break, taking a rest, taking a time out, right? Especially if work is involved, right, young gentlemen? If it's business related, somebody may be needing to take a break. That would make sense. If house is about home and family, then this might be taking a temporary break, a short break, meaning like a vacation, something of that nature. And then we're bringing in a long road, so this could be down the road, or travel. Like anything, I'm thinking like with this card, a road trip, right? That's one possibility. This could also be somebody who may work in the health industry, so this could be healthcare, something having to do with a healing business or healing practice. Now, another possibility here is that people who are working in business, or a business person in particular, businessman, might be retiring, because for me, short illness can represent retirement. And that is playing on the idea here. For me, I'm old enough to know that back in the day, we used to have an expression that I'm retiring for the evening, right? And that used to just mean like I'm going to bed, right? So this could be a visual pun for retirement, especially coming after the business card. So it could be like there may be a businessman who is considering retirement. Now, the last thing I will say about short illness, and this may be a little salacious, but this is also a card that represents sex and sexual activity, right? So There may be something having to do with a man, and something having to do with sex or sexual relations with or involving this particular man. So that would be the top row. But whatever the short illness is, if it's retirement, it's connected to this man because this is a connector card. If it's um, sex and sexual relations, this man is connected to that. Okay. So now theft. Talked about the theft card in the previous Kipper-Cast. And so theft card usually represents some kind of loss, right? So this could be coming up short, some kind of loss. Sometimes I look at this card as the takeaway. So now this is also a cause and effect card. So now here, this space would be the effect of the theft. Here is the cause, right? Because again, cause and effect. He's leaving the scene of the crime. So this would be the effect. Where do we go from here after the loss? But here is where the scene of the crime, quote unquote, takes place. So it's something on the home front, something having to do with family. It could be real estate or property. That would be another form of business. Here we would have healthcare or health practitioner or health business, right? Healing business. Here we might have real estate or property. And then here with great fortune, we might have investments or investing, right? Just because of the change on the card's image, right? And we also have money here with the theft card, right? But there may be something having to do with a takeaway, something being absconded with, right? Some kind of loss, but it may be house or home related. Now, I'm looking at this, and this could also be, if we're talking about the real estate industry, right? The housing market, let's say, then it could just be the maybe the decrease in value when it comes to homes. Right now, this is not my area of expertise, so people could weigh in the comment section on that. But there may be some sort of change involving real estate and real estate value. So that's what I'm seeing with that. Now, a long road. Now, this in the future column here, this would suggest something that is down the road. You know, that's some some way off. This is the time and distance card. So it could be read one or two ways. Either we're noting the progress that we've made, like the expression like you've come a long way, or we're looking ahead and saying there's still a ways to go, or something that's down the road. This is a card that's known as 1 year's patience. So things might be unfolding here in the month of April that are going to have some long-term ramifications, right? Something that might not change right away. Or we might see the beginning stages of it and the story's going to continue to unfold down the road. Right, so now what could happen is this is a movement card, so the way I read it is that the movement is vertical this way. So false person is actually at the bottom of a long road, right? So here it could be saying too, like this, whatever this um, mistake or dishonesty or whatever is off or whatever is bad or the mistake here is going to move up to here, meaning like there's going to be maybe the retirement may become as a result of this duplicity, this dishonesty, what have you, right? It's going to accelerate to here where a person retires, that kind of thing. Or, there's a scandal involving sex and sexual relations that's going to accelerate with a long road. Now, again, if I go with the idea that this could be, you know, coming a long way. This could be something that, has been in the makings to some degree for some time. Like there's been a history of this, and it's just now coming to the forefront. So that's what I'm seeing with these cards. And so now let's take a look at the one card I haven't mentioned yet, which is Hope Big Water. So Hope Big Water is a card that talks about one's hopes, one's wishes, one's dreams. Now this is also a card that talks about things that are foreign or things that are overseas, right? So then here we have, if we knight young gentleman to this card, it may be describing the businessman in particular as a foreigner, right? Or somebody who has business overseas. And then that would be what's being impacted, possibly, right? Grief and adversity of one's hopes, wishes, and dreams, if we read it this way, extending the effect, right? But if we use this as a knighting device, then it would connect to the young gentleman card. Now the anchor is a symbol of a couple of things. The hope part, the anchor is a symbol of hope, but it can also be a symbol for perseverance and not losing hope, right? So even though there may be a sense of grief and adversity and feeling like you want to bang your head up against the wall, this card would suggest maybe don't lose hope. Keep the faith. Right, maybe at some point something would change down the road, right? And if we take a long road, it knights to great fortune. So there may be some changes for the better, a positive change down the road. And that would make sense with the majority of the stop cards. I mean, the stop card showing up in the reading, I should say. So I'm just scanning the columns to see if there's anything more I want to say. I think I have it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw an effect card here for theft and a cause card here for false person. So let's do it. So I've got the remainder of the deck. I'm going to go ahead and shuffle. I think you can see out of the corner of the screen. You can see me actually shuffling the cards. So what I'm going to do first is that I talked about false person first, so I'm going to go ahead and cut the cards again. I'm going to fan the cards out, so hopefully you'll see some of the fan. And I'm looking at the fan for a card that's going to be the cause. I'm going to set it there. Now I'm going to do the same thing again. Shuffle the cards one more time for the effect cards for theft. And I just realized I could also do another card on the other side of short illness for the connection. Because the short illness card would connect the cards on either side. Okay, so let's do that too, since I just talked about it. So first, back to theft. One more time. And I'm looking again. I like this card here. This will be the effect. Okay? And one more card for short illness. All right, so I turned the card over. I didn't intend to, and I thought to myself, wouldn't it be funny if it was one of the main people cards, but the card turned over, so here's the card that turned over. I'm going to use it. Okay, so now here we have main person 1. So this is a male person or male presenting person, right? So this is a significator card, one of the most important cards in the deck. And he has turned up, so this could be one of my male viewers who are watching this video. So this could be about you. If you are a female watching this, then this may be a man who is significant to you. Or we could just let it be that there is a man who's playing a significant role or part in the unfolding of next month's events or the events of 2025 that the cards are trying to convey, right? And here we have line of sight, right? He's facing this way, so we have a line of sight reading, right? So this would be in his future, right? So main person one and young gentleman are being connected by short illness, right? So now, this could be, if we go with house, being home and family, this could be a man and a younger person, and they may have a familial relationship, right? So this could be father and son, or two brothers who grew up in the same house, right? But these two would be connected possibly by family or as family members. Now, it could also be that these two are connected by a sexual relationship. If we go with short illness being the sex card in the deck, right? Then here we have maybe a sexual relationship between two men. And then note this, do you notice? Then we have main person also knighting to false person, right? So this would be a person who is not sincere, a person who is hiding something. And I did say the possibility of a sex scandal, right? So there may be that at play, right? And then also two main person knights to house. So this could be a person who's presenting himself as, maybe a married man and father, with the home life, right? The idea of the house and the white picket fence, right? I'm being very, really metaphorical here, but there may be something about that could come to light. Or it could just even be that a man is considering retirement, right? He's looking forward to either maybe vacation time, taking some time off from business, or he's looking forward to retirement. So there's a number of possibilities there, but with these challenging cards that he knights to, okay? So there is that. And usually main person one, there's no other meaning of it than it just represents a man who is significant to the situation, right? Okay. So now I will also too say, if we go back to the idea that short illness is actually about, a minor health condition, then it could just be somebody who is, maybe needing some rest, getting some bed rest, taking some time out to recover, or it's in some form of recovery, that kind of thing. So that is the first card. Now let me come back to here with false person because I wanted to start there actually. So what's the cause here? Okay, so we have movement. So the change card represents a change in circumstances. Yeah. So this is a movement card. So the way the change card works is that it moves away from the card behind it, right? The card is moving forward this way, so the card behind it and moving towards this. But there may be some sort of mistake, some duplicity, some dishonesty that somebody is wanting to move away from, and that would be a man or a businessman is wanting to move away from that, right? So create some distance with that, right? So we have that. But this card usually talks about a change in circumstances. So somebody's wanting to create some distance between themselves and some insincerity, some dishonesty, some sort of cover-up, right? Because there's too much grief, right? Somebody's getting too much grief for the mistake or the cover-up, right? Someone once said, and I can't give credit because I don't know where this came from, but I did hear one time an expression where sometimes the cover-up is worse than the actual misdeed, yeah? And so somebody is probably wrapped up in a state of cover-up, and it's just making the case worse and worse with the grief, right? The sorrow card. That's what I'm saying. I'm tempted to draw another card to see where the change in circumstances come in. And I think because I said it, I'm going to do it. Okay, but let's come back to the theft card. So here's the effect of the theft. And here we have success in love. Okay, so success in love is a card that talks about a good outcome. right? But it talks about, too, something that may have to do with a friendship. It may have to do with faith, trust, but it can also be something that's going to affect a good outcome. So there may be a questionable outcome here with this card regarding the theft card, right? But this card usually talks about a good outcome, success. But for me, it's also a card about faith and trust, loyalty even. So that may be what's being affected by this sense of loss. Okay, let's do one more card and wrap this up with a card for connecting to the change card. Let's see where this possible change, where this is going. Okay. All right, looking at the fan again. I'll go with this one. And we'll put that there. Hopefully that's still in view. I think it's wide enough for that. Okay. I'm going to pick the remainder of the deck up. Let's see what card we have on the other side of the change card. Here we have child. Okay, so the child could represent an actual child. It is a purple card, purple bordered card. So it can indicate a child. So this would be something that is in its infancy stage, if I can get the words out, right? Or it's something that's going to be minor, because the child on the card would be considered a minor. So whatever the change is, it could be something small or something minor, or it could be the start or the beginning of change, right? Because again, the movement is moving towards the child card. Now, there is a stork in the image, and so the stork for me can represent change and improvement just based on that. But it can also be about expectations, right? Because for me, the stork is a card that talks about expectancy and delivery, right? So there may be something being delivered, and that's quote unquote delivered. That's expected. So there may be some sort of change taking place that is expected, right? Because the card is on the change card is moving towards this. So change is to be expected. But it may not be a big change. It may be something small or something minor. But it could also be, if we go back to the original card, the card in the middle, the focus card, if it is something having to do with home and family, there may be a child, a young child who is also a part of the situation. So I'm going to wrap up and leave it there. This has been the Oracle Outlook. Oracle Outlook, oh my goodness. No, this is the Kipper-Cast. I'm so used to doing the Oracle Outlook. This has been the Kipper-Cast for the month of April 2025. If you made it to this point in the video with me, thank you so much for giving me the gift of your time. I do appreciate it. And for those Kipper peeps out there who asked me to continue my Kipper cards by category series in some shape, form, or fashion, I hope you found this helpful in your process of learning the Kipper cards for yourself and your practice. So this is James Himm Mitchell. I am signing off. Thank you so much again, and I look forward to seeing you in this space when we sling the cards for May of 2025. So until then, take care and have a great month.